on to New England Nation Extra. I'm Maria Trivalpiece here with Cole Johnson. Today we're breaking down Bill Belichick's press conference from yesterday. Cole, I'm excited. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a nice Saturday morning we have going on. And yesterday, the first media day, the first day Bill Belichick's talking to us. I mean, you can't get any better than that. Football might be back.
It might be back, and I don't know. He was he was in a pretty good mood yesterday, I would say.
Yeah, not bad. I was actually pretty surprised. He seemed like he was excited to be there. He was giving some good answers. They weren't short one-word answers. I think you and I were like, oh, this might be pretty quick. Be out here in 5, 7 minutes. But it was a solid 15, 20 minutes of him giving some good answers. He said his thank yous to everybody. It was good.
Yeah, he had a lot of manners, a lot of thank yous, longer answers. So we're going to talk all about that today. One of the main things that Belichick was really concerned with was making sure that the safety of his players and his coaching staff is the number one priority. And he even mentioned the players that decided to opt out, how he felt. He said that he respected all of their decisions. We're in really weird times right now. But with those players opting out and with some players leaving, that leaves a lot of question marks on the field. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, those question marks have less time, less reps, just not really being able to be answered. So, Cole, what did you take away from what Belichick said about how he was going to address this shortened preseason format?
So I think what Belichick is looking for heading into this preseason is it's just like any other year, even though it's really not. And the way it's going with no preseason games, as you mentioned, he's still walking in with the same mentality. He's still preaching that to his guys on this squad, whether you're the starting quarterback or you're the last guy on the depth chart. These guys are all walking in, you know, preparing as if this is going to be a full 17-game season and going back to the playoffs and hosting a playoff game. That's what they have to have in the back of their heads walking in, even though it's a completely different circumstance. So what I think he's going to try to preach is to get really hammer that into the back of their heads, because some of these guys are going to be kind of confused. They're not going to know what's going on, especially these younger guys who are going to have to step up and step into some huge roles here early on in their rookie year, their second, third year on the team. So Belichick, I think he needs to express that to his players, and he needs to get that to them pretty quickly, so they can kind of figure it out. And when he mentioned it yesterday, this is what he had to say about that.
That's what it is. It's the same for everybody, and that's the way it went this year, and it's the way it went in 2011. Some years are different than other years, and there's nothing we can do about that. We can't change it, so we'll just try to make the most out of every opportunity that we get going forward. That's all we can do.
Yeah, so that was Belichick talking about his guys also not getting reps. And the thing he was trying to point out was that everyone across the league is missing reps right now. It's not just the Patriots. It's not just Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham missing snaps as quarterback. It's everyone across the league, and they all have to adapt and adjust to it. Those are two huge words that every NFL team seems to be using right now. So Belichick just is trying to get that point across, that we're all missing reps. Everyone on the squad's missing reps. It'll be okay. Everything will catch up in due time.
I think that the Patriot mentality and the Belichick way, of do your job actually fits perfectly for the pandemic. It's get to practice, do what you have to do it right, and do it well. And he also touched on that a little bit yesterday, talking about fundamentals and executing those fundamentals.
Absolutely, Maria. I mean, Belichick has brought that to New England since the first day he got there. And it's been implemented as he's been the head coach for 2 decades now. Nothing has changed. You show up to work every day, you do your job. You do your job as a teammate in the locker room, off the field, and then you do your job when you're on the field as a part of a 111th. And that's their mentality. That's what they walk into every single day. And as he said yesterday, it works. It works, and that's what they've been doing. He said, I don't see any other way around it. I don't care if we don't have any preseason games, if we're playing a shortened season. That's how it's going to be. He doesn't see any way around that, and this is what he had to say about that.
No matter how long he's played, whether he's played 2 years or 20 years, there's still a basic progression to training camp at that player's position. In order to be a good football team, you need to be good fundamentally. You need to be sound. Everybody needs to be able to execute basic assignments, techniques, and make basic adjustments, and those transcend to everybody in every unit. I don't think there's any way around that. So that's what we've always done. That's what we continue to do.
So as you can see, nothing has changed over the last 2 decades. Even though this is a wacky season, Maria, Bill Belichick is going to keep those same ideals, that philosophy and mentality of fundamentals and execution, discipline. That's what they bank on in that Patriot culture, and I think that's going to stand no matter how this season goes.
Do your job was basically the main theme of the press conference yesterday. He did talk about a couple other things, but what did you really take away from Belichick's presser yesterday?
So number one, it's kind of something we just touched on, was the fundamentals part of it. There's a lot of good things Belichick said, but the number one thing that I was even looking for heading into that press conference that he did end up saying it took a while. It was all the way towards the end, but it was that fundamentals part of it. These guys are showing up, and they're sticking to those fundamentals, the execution, like I just talked about. That was the main one. And since we just talked about that, I'll jump into my second one. It's preparation. It's a completely different level of preparation this year. He tried to get that across to the media yesterday. It's not a regular season, but it's still preparing for a football game. It's still preparing for a football season. He has to get 80 troops together and ready here over the course of the next couple of weeks. There's a lot of guys you gotta progress each and every day. You have the special teams unit, the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball. So many different little details in the game of football that some people on the outside don't even realize. And Belichick's got to get all his guys ready to go. And the preparation doesn't change. It's the same. And it's even with the shortened season, he seems like he doesn't care at all. He's like, you got to walk into it like that doesn't matter. So that's that. And I think lastly, it's going to be the leadership of those veterans. That's going to be crucial. And he kind of talked about it when he was mentioning the guys who were opting out. He backed them 100%, but he knows that it's the next man up mentality. And there's several leaders on this team like Matthew Slater and Devin McCourty, veterans that are going to be on the field a lot of the time that are going to have to take a lot of responsibility for this team. Belichick knows that. He knows he's got to lean on his veterans. Sometimes he can't do it all himself. And like he said yesterday, something he said that stood out, he can't go out and play for these guys. They gotta work themselves, and he has full trust in a lot of his guys.
Yeah, Cole, I'm going to have to agree with you. My 3 takeaways from that press conference, number one, as we talked about, that next guy up, do your job mentality. He kind of touched on it multiple times that he can't control the situation that they're in right now, the pandemic, people leaving, people opting out. So being able to step up and do your job will be super important, and he reiterated that multiple times yesterday. One for me is definitely one thing that I took away also was this cooperation aspect. Belichick touched on it. He's going to need the coaches, the staff, like everybody around Gillette, the team, everybody in Foxborough needs to be cooperating because it's a weird time. If somebody decides that they want to opt out, then that's going to have to be mutual respect across the staff. So I think cooperation is going to be a huge thing. And I'm also going to copy your leadership one for the third part because Belichick said he needs to rely on his coaches. He needs to rely on his veteran players to be able to have success this season, especially with the way that everything is looking right now. So those are your 3 takeaways and my 3 takeaways. And now it's time for what's one of my favorite parts of New England Nation Extra, the 2-minute drill. So Cole, let's start off with the first question. What was the question that Bill Belichick hated the most yesterday or in general? What does he hate the most when the media asks him questions?
This is tough because, Maria, I think he hates a lot of questions, for one. There's a lot of questions that he walks into every press conference like, I'm going to have to answer this one. I think yesterday, the question that he hated the most was probably I'd have to say, if we're going to go by a short answer basis and something that he couldn't get across, it was the question of, did anyone test positive today for COVID-19? He hated that because, for one, he couldn't answer it. He said legally he is not going to answer that question. But overall, I think the question he hates the most is, what was today like? How are you doing today? He probably hates that. He's like, I don't want you guys to know how I'm feeling or what my day's been like. That's probably it.
Yeah, he's not a big emotional guy, so I think that like that initial like starter up question like, "Oh, Bill, how you doing today?" And he doesn't want to answer that. He's like, "No, no, no, let's talk football." And I think we saw that yesterday. The people who asked really great football questions, oh my gosh, that's why we got such good answers to a lot of the things we were wondering because they talked football. And we have a little bit time left, so one more question for the 2-minute drill. What sandwich was Bill Belichick eating in that Subway commercial he was filming before?
I'm going with a really plain Jane kind of sandwich. I feel like he doesn't like a lot of stuff. He's not a complicated guy. It was just straight. It was a white bread and turkey with some lettuce, a little bit of cheese, and that's it. Nothing else on it.
What kind of cheese do you know?
Probably shredded. We'll go with shredded mozzarella.
Shredded mozzarella. All right, so he's a very average sandwich. The sandwich does the job, so it's fine, right?
Yes, yes, does the job, gets the job done, just like he does his job on the field with his coaches and his players.
Well, the 2-minute drill is up now, and that's just about all the time we have here on New England Nation Extra. I'm Maria Tribal Peace. He's Cole Johnson. Thank you guys for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week where we'll have more Patriots coverage.